Welcome to the third show of Youth Empowering the Streets. My name is Osvaldo Ruelas and I am one of the co-leads for the Youth Voice Initiative.
And I am Rebecca Esparza, the other Youth Voice Initiative co-lead. Youth Empowering the Streets is a show funded by the collaboration of the City of San Jose's Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, the Shortino Foundation, and Create TV San Jose. Thank you for making the show possible.
On today's show, we will be discussing the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force and the efforts it has in order to reduce youth violence as well as crime activity in the streets of San Jose.
On today's show, we have the pleasure of having Mario Maciel, Division Manager of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, Jose Salcido, Senior Policy Advisor in Public Safety from the Mayor's Office.
We would also like to welcome Mr. Brian Ferrante, Captain of the Foothill Division with the San Jose Police Department. Also, Mr. Vito Kiala, Principal of Overfeld High School. And with us again, Johnny Cepeda Gogo, Deputy District Attorney with the Santa Clara County.
Welcome, Mario.
So, Mr. Maciel, tell us a bit about the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force and what it is.
Well, good evening, Rebecca and Osvaldo. Thank you for having me. The Mayor's Gang Task Force is the City of San Jose's response to youth and gang violence in our city. Back in 1991, former Mayor Hammer stepped to the podium and told our city that this was everyone's city, that the streets belonged to no one except the citizens of this city. So since 1991, we've been convening schools, faith-based groups, community-based organizations, the City of San Jose's Department of Parks and Rec, San Jose PD, probation, the District Attorney's Office, on and on. Anyone that's a major stakeholder in the world of youth violence prevention is now convened under what we call the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force.
Thank you. So who funds the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
The Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force is funded by the City of San Jose. The Mayor and City Council appropriate yearly funds for the Mayor's Gang Task Force. So it's tax dollars well used in our city.
And who are the key players?
Within the Gang Task Force, we're structured in two different levels. The key players at the policy level are obviously the mayor, who chairs the whole initiative, along with our police chief, our county supervisors, our district attorney, our public defender, our major executive director levels. Then we have key stakeholders at the tech team level, and that really is where the rubber meets the road and services are provided. And the key stakeholders there are the schools, probation officers, youth intervention workers, community-based organizations that do a variety of services for the youth of our city. And so those are the key stakeholders.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what are some of the key wins or objectives that the City of San Jose and specifically with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, what are some of those key wins that they have had to tackle within the last couple of years?
Yeah, the Mayor's Gang Task Force, works around what we call a strategic work plan. And it really is a plan to break the cycle of youth violence and foster hope. Anytime a kid doesn't get hurt, it's a win. Anytime a youth isn't injured seriously or we don't have gang homicides in this city, those are wins. We service thousands of youth every year. It's hard to really quantify, your success when many people want to look at stats like homicides or gang incidents, but there's so much success when we can go to an elementary school or into a community that once was unsafe and you see kids playing in the street. Those are all not measurables, but anecdotally to us, are key wins for the Mayor's Gang Task Force. I think that cumulatively is what makes us one of the safest large cities in this entire nation.
And so what do you think makes the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force so successful, or it be a part of a nation-wide struggle?
Osvaldo, I thank you for the question. As I've had the privilege to see Mayor's Gang Task Force throughout the state and the nation, I got to tell you, San Jose really is unique. And as we try to put our thumb on what makes it so unique, we keep coming back to one common theme, and that really is true relationships between major stakeholders that in so many other cities are siloed, where you have egos that come into play. In the city of San Jose, our biggest strength is our relationship and our true commitment and passion for the work we do. Many of the key stakeholders in the Mayor's Gang Task Force are local products of our community that understand the issue locally, have a vested interest in making it better for themselves and their families, and I think cumulatively we're going to continue to have success here in San Jose.
So since the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force has been created, have you seen a decrease in the crime with youth particularly?
You know, like anything, crime statistics, they ebb and flow. We've had great years, and unfortunately, we've had years of tragedy. You know, we've never had the silver bullet to a cure to youth violence in this city, but we pride ourselves that we have the right structures, that we have the right protocols, that we fund using real general fund dollars the type of response a city like this needs. So to talk about any one year's crime, you know, I can cite a year where we've had great years in 2010 with only 6 gang homicides and, you know, great peace in this city. But to those 6 families, it wasn't a successful year. So again, when we talk about youth violence, unless we can have a city of zero violence, we're always going to have a lot of work to do.
So how many departments within the city or how many agencies that work with the city would you say are a part of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
You know, the Mayor's Gang Task Force takes a, you know, a holistic approach. You know, we look at schools. Within the city, there are so many departments that play a key role. The Department of Parks and Recreation and Neighborhood Services is where this initiative is housed. You know, that's where the community centers and the after-school programs are. But our number one partner, without a doubt, is San Jose Police Department. And then we need code enforcement, and we need libraries, and we need just so many other partners. And then when you talk about the county, our partnerships with the district attorney's office and probation and with public health, it just goes on and on. There are a lot of good efforts being done, not only within the city, but within our county. And together, I think you start getting the results you see here in San Jose.
So tell us, how much money is given to the Gang Task Force, and how much of it is distributed to community centers and schools, et cetera?
So the Mayor's Gang Task Force currently has an allocated budget of approximately $4.5 million. Of that, approximately $2.2 million are allocated to what we call community-based organizations through contracts. And most of those contracts are done at community centers, at school sites, because that's where the bulk of our youth are. So again, 4.5 million total budget, with 2.2 million being actually given to those community groups that have the best shot at being successful. You know, they've been out there way before we started this. We're just helping fund them to make them stronger and better at what they do.
So how many youth would you say the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force and its efforts have outreach to and made a difference for?
Yeah, you know, many of our protocols reach every single middle school and high school in this city. We have 19 school districts, you know, and 72 middle schools and high schools. So quantifiably hundreds of thousands. But within direct service, we service about 4,500 to 5,000 individual young men and women into our service provision. And that is through community-based organizations as well as internal city programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is the recent spike in gang violence over the last few years in any way connected to the closure of community centers / youth centers and spaces where youth feel comfortable?
You know, Osvaldo, Rebecca, anytime you try to pinpoint a cause for youth violence, it becomes it's a slippery slope. It's difficult. The question is, did the closure of community centers and those type of facilities contribute? Well, anything that reduces the options that youth have, that reduces the places where you can be with caring, safe adults, obviously contributes. But let's be mindful that there have been cuts everywhere, which means that parents have to take on 2 jobs. That has created the part of the spike. That there aren't summer schools, that there are less after-school programs, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the closure of community centers absolutely is a variable, but it's more of a holistic view at what's causing, you know, us to lose these options for youth, because kids that sit idle, that have no options and don't have caring adults and lose all hope for life are what we're most fearful. We want to instill hope, and you do that by providing services and letting them come to those type of facilities. So I'm also proud to say, though, that as those facilities closed, the city's taking tremendous strides to reopen each and every community center. You talked about closing centers. Yeah, the city may no longer run every single one of them, but every single one of them is open via a community-based group that can provide those services, and it doesn't have to be the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maciel, for spending your evening with us today. Is there anything else you would like to add?
I just want to end by thanking you all. I really believe that this youth issue is going to take a youth response, and the Youth Voice Initiative and Youth Empowering the Streets is exactly what this city needs. I hope that the state of California and the nation pays attention to what the two of you are doing. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and we will now head to the Mayor's Game Prevention Task Force Yearly Summit. Here we are at Mount Pleasant High School for the 6th Annual Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force Summit on Crime and Gang Prevention. Let's go ahead and talk to some people.
Because it appeared at one time we had these kids killing each other dead. So something about your youth program is really...
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Osvaldo Ruelas, and I'm here with Councilmember Rose Herrera. And we're here at the Mayor's Game Prevention Task Force Summit. So what is your involvement with the Mayor's Game Prevention Task Force?
Well, this is a 6th annual summit. I've been involved with it all 6 years, and it's an incredible opportunity to bring community together, to really look at the gang problem from many different angles. And as I said when I spoke earlier, there's it is a problem, but it also gives us an opportunity to reach out to youth. And we have the police, the district attorney's office, probation, youth, the county, the city, a lot of different resources, and we collaborate and work together on an ongoing basis to look at how can we reduce gang activity, how can we get kids to choose a different path, and how can we really make our community safer and work together. And that's what we do every year. This is our 6th year. I chair the community, the subcommittee on community engagement. And so we work with the whole community, and including the faith community. We work with everyone to try to bring focus to this problem. And one thing I wanted to say that I think we need to focus in on is the kind of opportunity gap that we have in our community. We need to look at more opportunities in terms of jobs for our young people. We have a 24% youth unemployment rate in the area, and that's not acceptable. We've got to make sure that our kids have opportunities to get that first job. When we can connect kids, when we get kids through high school and educated and connecting to a first job, it's a lot less likely that they're going to be taking a different path. So yes, we have to do enforcement. That's very important. We got to get the bad guys off the street, and our police do that. But we also have to look at alternatives and look at opportunities to create more jobs for youth in this community.
Can you elaborate on that? Do you have a game plan on how to tackle that issue of youth unemployment?
Well, first of all, we got to admit that it exists. And part of the problem is every time I hear reports coming out, from the newspaper, from Silicon Valley, there's a really good news sort of problem, bad news story here. A lot of people are going back to work. We got a certain percentage of population that's achieving great things and making lots of money, but we have a lot of people that are underemployed and unemployed. And yes, here in Silicon Valley and San Jose too. So Silicon Valley is touted as the area that has the strongest economic recovery in the country, and I'm really proud of that. And it's fantastic that all these tech companies are doing great, but we've got to find a way to include the rest of the folks too. And youth often suffer more than most because some of the people that are trying to get jobs are taking jobs that youth would have had. So what do? We ask the right questions. We work with the private sector. We work with government. We put a focus on that problem, just like we're putting on the problem, of gangs themselves, to create more opportunities. I think we need more training. I think we need internship programs, and I'm going to work with the private sector to help create internship programs so that young people can get that first job. That's really important that they get that job experience, because otherwise you have a chicken and an egg situation where the employer doesn't want to hire you because you don't have any experience, and you need that experience to get the job. So we've got to work at. So I think internship programs, working with schools, working with private sector to create that pathway into that first job, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on.
Can you actually elaborate on how to create jobs for youth?
Well, the thing is, we have to look at Silicon Valley, which is known for innovation. And so we have to make innovation first. So take a look at the great innovative things we're doing with these companies and apply that to getting our youth their first jobs. We know that we have tremendous potential in our young people. The diversity in our community is actually a strength. The fact that we speak multiple languages, that's a great asset. And that will help us eventually reaching partners across the world, including China and Mexico and Latin America, to do export and to be able to communicate with them. That's a strength. We need to leverage that. We need to be innovative in how we approach that with companies to create, again, internships to allow young people to get that job experience and then create a pathway for them to have a career. The other thing is effectiveness. So we need to be innovative. We need to continue to be effective, and we need to work to create these opportunities. That's how the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force works. We look at what works. very pragmatic approach. So if solutions are working, we continue to do them. If they're not, we do something different. And I think now we need to expand to say, what else can we do? And if we're looking at poverty as a problem, which it is, in this valley too, increasing problems with people not having money and not having, having a situation where they're struggling to put food on the table, we've got to address that too. And part of that is getting our youth jobs and creating a path for them so that they will be able to be productive members of our community.
Thank you very much. And we actually look forward to you working with youth and the community to get that unemployment rate to go down.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
School, going to elementary school, and when I was in the 4th grade, my first year of, I guess it's like the grade after middle elementary school, I was like really nervous, and it was the first year that I was going to school without my grandmother. And I remember that day my aunt took me to school, like.
Here we are with Esther Mota, and we're actually going to ask her a couple questions to find out more about the summit. So good morning, Esther.
Good morning.
How are you
Oswaldo.
doing?
Good, thank you.
That's good, that's good. So how is the summit going so far?
The summit is actually going really great. As you can see, we have rain and it's a little cold, but we have a lot of committed people here from the community. They're here, they want to know what we're doing, and we're very excited about informing them about the different things that we have going on, from our faith base to our parent project to our fatherhood collaborative workshops, and even to our Gang 101 and San Jose PD community safety strategies.
Thank you. What are some of the other workshops that you are offering, and what is the purpose behind them?
Really, the purpose behind the workshops, Osvaldo, is to really inform people about the different resources. What's the city doing behind this? What's the county? What are the community-based organizations? As we said, the Gang Task Force is a collaborative. It involves all different systems that are doing different things around prevention, intervention, and suppression efforts.
Okay. So what would you highlight with regards to this summit? What has changed from previous summits that you have seen thus far?
Okay. Well, actually, this summit, we're really excited. We actually have, during lunch, we're going to have a showcase. We're showcasing some youth here from Mount Pleasant High School, also from Overfelt High School. And so I'm really excited because a lot of times, I know sometimes when you hear gangs and you hear youth, there's always a negative connotation to that. But today we really want to celebrate all the positive things that youth are doing and actually giving back to the community.
Or getting inside the jails and connecting with the families, and with the individuals.
Question about victims. Are victims of gun violence, they are eligible for?
Welcome. We're here with Mario Maciel, Division Manager with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. So Mario, what do you hope to accomplish with this summit?
The main purpose of this summit is to foster strong relationships with the community. Community engagement is paramount, This doesn't prevent the violence that we all know happened in our fine city last year. We lost lives here. But what we hope is that this fosters hope, builds the strength and relationships needed to prevent that type of tragedy again. We don't want kids or families to suffer. And so it's about the future.
Okay. Would you mind sharing some of the mayor's plan or the city's plan to tackle on those issues of gangs and crime?
Yeah, definitely. Earlier this year, we launched on another community engagement process where we had over 1,000 people come out to town hall meetings and tell us, you need to work with young females. You need to work with kids down to the age of 6, even higher, up to the age of 24. And so it's all that community input that's currently being synthesized so that we can see what our next 5 to 6 strategic goals will be for the years 2014 to 16. Because you can't just work from the heart and from the gut. Many people run programs and you ask them, how do you know that it's effective? And they say, just believe me, just trust me. And now I want us to use our mind a little bit, consider evidence-based methodologies that have proven to be successful in other parts of the nation. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can tailor things to fit our Latino communities here in San Jose and then make them even better than where they were invented.
Okay. So how many people would you say this summit or the efforts of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force impact overall throughout the city?
Yeah, when you talk about the impacts of the Mayor's Gang Task Force, with our services providing safety to all middle and high schools, you talk about hundreds of thousands of students. Obviously, the direct services are provided to about 4,700 youth that are identified at high risk and gang involved. Then you have summits like this that bring out 300 to 400 residents, and you have town hall meetings for the strategic work plan that bring out about 1,000 people. So it's never enough, but it's something that we intend to improve on and continue doing, not only in political years, but year after year in this city.
So if there were to be a citizen watching right now and would actually like to become a part of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force or the efforts to end crime and gang issues, where could they go?
Definitely, there are a lot of resources, but instead of listing them all to you, call our office directly. We'll take care of you. The Mayor's Gang Task Force can be located at 794-1630. And you ask us what you want to get involved in, and we're either going to provide it for you or make sure you're connected to the right resource.
Okay, thank you very much.
Loving him. He is the best thing on the planet. That's my boy. That's my son. I can do anything because I love him. And what are you doing with your daughters? Come and help mommy in the kitchen. Come help mommy with the other kids. Teaching your daughter how to be a mother. We have to be able to teach our sons how to be a father.
And that's it for the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force Summit. For more information, please visit our website or give us a call. Back to the studio. Welcome back to Youth Empowering the Streets. With us we have from the Mayor's Office, Senior Policy Advisor on Public Safety, Jose Salcido. Welcome to Youth Empowering the Streets.
Thank you, Osvaldo. Rebecca, it's my pleasure to be here.
Hello. So, Mr. Salcido, how many community-based organizations are offered in San Jose, and how many does the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force fund?
So currently we're funding 23 throughout the city, and those community-based organizations are usually near hotspot areas where we see, as we review data, we see where the gang activity is occurring, and we fund those community-based organizations to be in those areas.
And what is the rate of the recidivism in youth?
You know, currently that recidivism rate is in flux. They haven't really come up with a figure. Our probation department, who works very closely with us, actually has instituted an initiative to do a lot of, rather than arresting, there's an arrest, but then we also kind of divert them to programs. So what used to be a population in juvenile hall that was close to 600 is now down to 300. And a lot of the youth are being diverted to programs as opposed to being put into juvenile hall. So they're in the process of seeing what that recidivism rate is.
Okay, well, with the average cost of $8,900 for a K through 12 education to youth in California versus $50,000 a year for adults who stay in prison in California, how is the city of San Jose taking a reality to these disproportionate numbers and adjusting funds accordingly?
So currently, because of the economy, you know, we have kind of been up and down on funding. There was a time there when we only had about $2 million for our best funding, and we're back up to $4.5 million. So it has been reinstituted. But in the end, we're very much focused on trying to make sure that our youth get prevention and intervention as opposed to suppression. But it takes all three to ultimately bring down the crime rates. But very much we understand, you know, since '91, as Mario was saying earlier, we started the Gang Task Force to get our schools involved, because we recognize that if you put money at the front end and you start creating these programs for the kids, that ultimately you avoid those expenses that you talk about in incarceration. So San Jose has been very much on top of that since '91.
So how much youth has the Gang Task Force reached so far?
We average between 4,500 to 5,000 youth a year. And again, those are programs that we have throughout the city. We are trying to do better outreach to our high-risk youth. And those are kids that, of course, are not on the school grounds. They're usually high school dropouts. And we've brought back our night gyms. And we've got, you know, I think 3 night gyms going right now that are open late at night so that the kids have something to do in those hours.
In what ways do you feel the Gang Task Force can improve on their outreach?
You know, actually, I'm glad to be here today because this is part of that outreach. The work that you two are doing is actually getting the information out to the public. We've also been part of the national efforts with the White House to improve our program, even though it's a national model, there are things we can do better. And we've brought the public health department to the policy team. They are looking at the epidemic of violence and how public health can weigh in. We also have church involvement. In addition to our youth initiative, we've got the faith initiative, which was started 2 years ago, and we're starting to go to our churches to make sure that they're aware of the problem and that ultimately they take advantage of the programs that the city offers.
So how many reports a year do you think the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force gets from youth crime?
You know, that fluctuates, and every 2 months when the policy team gets together, we review the crimes that have occurred for the previous month. It can fluctuate from 8 reports a month to 16. And what I would like to do, if I could refer the viewers to the mayor's website, under public safety initiatives, the gang task force is there, and those every 2 month reports that come out are all there, and you can review the actual crime rate for gang. Now remember, this is not overall crime, this is just gang activity, and you'll get a more accurate number as opposed to me just giving out a few numbers.
So how is the mayor's office involved with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
Here, the mayor is the chair along with the chief of police. The two of them chair the policy team meeting every 2 months. So they're actually the ones, the mayor chooses who's going to be on the policy team. That has changed over the years to include more partners and bring in more people that can weigh in on the problem. But he also is the one who will present the budget every year to the council. And so he's the one that will end up kind of funding, or he doesn't actually fund it, he just presents an amount and then the council votes on it. And once it's voted by the council, then it becomes part of the city budget. So that's pretty much his involvement. And he has the bully pulpit. He's able to create that, be able to talk to the citizens about the problems. So he's very much involved in making sure that the city is aware of those problems and then give them the resources to be able to handle it, because it is a community problem and it's going to take the community to solve it.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience?
Only that we're blessed to be in this city that is the 10th largest city in the country, and given the amount of people we have here and a police department that's understaffed, we're doing a decent job. There's a lot of work to get done, and this economy isn't helping us, but we are turning the corner and we're starting to see more revenue come in. So I think things will start improving as we move forward.
Thank you again. Please check out this PSA. We will be right back. Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed the PSA made by the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. With us, we have Principal Vito Kiala from Overhill High School. Welcome to Yes.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Mr. Kiala, what does the Eastside Union High School District play in the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
Well, the Eastside Union High School District is a partner with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. We have a common goal, and that is to keep our youth safe and prepare them for the future. Obviously, in our high schools, our purpose, the reason we exist, is to educate students so that when they graduate, they're ready for college, careers, the future. And we can't do that if they're not in a safe place. So partnering with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force is a natural way to help our students have a safe environment, and also a natural way to provide services to students since they're at school most of the time.
Yeah.
So what prevention and intervention programs does the Eastside Union High School District have to offer for youth?
You know, I would want to say that our biggest high school programs have to do with how we educate students. When students come to school, find success, see hope for the future, they're much more likely to be engaged and to stay out of trouble. Of course, we also have to provide safety nets, and that's where the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force really has come in as a partner. Community-based organizations provide a whole range of services, everything from drug and alcohol treatment to mental health counseling to gang intervention, recreational programs, after-school programs. So a whole array of different kinds of support that help students find success when they're in school academically.
And can you tell us how much does it cost to fund these programs?
The amazing thing for us as a school is that the City of San Jose funds the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. So most of these services come to us, we do not cost us anything at all. Of course, we fund several other programs, but the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, we pick up the phone and make the phone call. We don't have to pay for them.
Would you mind sharing with us some of the success stories or some of the success rates that you guys have had since you've offered these programs?
Yeah, I could speak specifically about Overfeld High School, where our partnership with the San Jose Police Department, with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, with a whole variety of services has really helped us to see huge improvements with the development of our students. Initiatives like implementing a handball program at school that engages students who may have not been engaged in school, helps them stay out of trouble, helps them find different ways to use their energy, and it also helps them want to be at school and leads them to find success. That would be one of them. There are intervention efforts. We have gang intervention specialists who come to school and work with students who are at risk. And then to see this year alone, 3 or 4 students who would have been classified as gang members when they first started at Overfeld to get their college acceptance letters and to be headed off to 4-year universities, we know those are our real successes.
What is your opinion for the funding of police officers on high school campuses versus the funding to, say, life skill classes, resources that could keep students out of crime and motivated?
Yes, we need all of that. And I'll tell you the role of the police department with us at Overfeld, and so we have a policeman on campus or police officer on campus every single day. And those police officers have been with us. One of them's been with us for 11 years, another one for 15 years, and they become part of our staff. They get to know the students well, they get to work with them, they get to give them good advice. And so not only are they keeping the school safe, they're really good models of citizenship and good guides for our students when they start to make small problems. That being said, punishment's not the way to change a youth's life. Obviously, we need to provide support, education, classes. But the most important thing, really, I'll go back to this over and over, is that students, when they're in school, that they find success in their classes so that they can graduate ready for college and change their whole environment.
So you're telling us that you have the police there to connect with the students rather than punish them by locking them up? Or
I will tell you that at Overfeld this year, we have issued 2 citations to students, and both for very small things. Really, our policemen are there to be a presence. And obviously, if there's something where there's a crime that's being committed, they're there to respond. But most of what they're doing is really forming positive relations and playing a preventative role.
So what is your opinion on restorative justice for youth in high school?
I will go back to our job in schools is to educate students, and the only way you educate them is to help them learn from their mistakes. And so any way that we can help youth learn from their mistakes so that they're not repeating them again, without sabotaging their future, sabotaging their lives, or giving them a criminal record, I'm all in favor of that.
So can you tell us a little bit more about how your school has provided intervention and prevention programs?
We provide a variety of programs, and so when I look at our programs, and I'm speaking specifically for Overfeld, we have academic intervention programs, things like voluntary Saturday school, after-school tutoring, mentoring programs. We also have specific intervention programs, for instance, students who are going through depression or have experienced loss or who are struggling with substance abuse issues or poverty issues. We also have interventions like that for students who are involved in gangs, pre-identified or self-identified, where we try and help them make better decisions for the future so that they don't get involved in violence and don't find themselves in the criminal justice system.
How many agencies that belong or that form a part of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force would you believe are involved with Overfeld or provide their services to Overfeld?
Earlier in the show, I know Mario Maciel mentioned a huge number of agencies that are funded by the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, and I think we probably touch most of them at our school. We actively work with at least a dozen agencies who are on campus regularly and form partners with us. But like I said, if there's something happening in the community around the school, we know who we can call and we know we can get support.
Okay. How many youth would you say are served by the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force being on the campus?
There are more than 1,500 youth at Overfeld High School every given year, and every single one of those youth benefits from the safe campus, the positive climate, the fact that this year we've had 2 fights on our school campus, and it's a high school campus with 1,500 students. That doesn't just benefit the students who are not being involved in violence, it creates a positive climate where students feel safe at school. So everybody benefits.
What percentage of your students are graduating, and how has that number fluctuated?
Yeah, that number does fluctuate, especially in the way the state calculates numbers, but we're well over 80% graduating. The bigger number for us and the one we're really pushing, because graduating from high school and getting a diploma is a good start. But the bigger thing really is graduating ready for college so that you can go off to a 4-year school. And this year, almost 50% of our students are on track to graduate ready for college. And that number gets bigger and bigger every single year.
Oh, that's good to hear.
It's great.
So what changes has the district made in order to reshape their expulsion process?
That's interesting, because the expulsion process really is governed by law. There are certain criminal offenses that when they're committed on a school campus, the school and the district don't really have any choice but to move forward with an expulsion. Things like possession of drugs for sale, or possession of a weapon like a handgun, something like that. And in those cases, the school district has an obligation to move forward with an expulsion for the safety of the campuses. And so the process now is the process that's outlined in state law and in Ed Code.
So can you tell us how many students fall into truancy each year?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I do know that Overfeld has about a 95% attendance rate. That's for our school. I think our district's a little bit closer to 97% as a district. But within that, there are still hundreds of students who are missing school and missing school not for reasons that are excused. And that is one of our issues. Obviously, if we make schools places where those students can find success, they're going to be less likely to miss class.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience?
You know, whenever I get a chance, I always want to recognize the students of Overfeld High School for the efforts they make to overcome the serious challenges they face in their lives, come to school, prepare for their future, prepare for college, and also to recognize the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, the rest of the community that supports them, because they really will make those students of Overfeld High School and all the schools in Eastside Union High School District are our future, and they really can make our democracy and our country a much better place.
Well, thank you again. We will be right back. Stay tuned for more Youth Empowering the Streets.
Welcome back to Yes. From the San Jose's Police Department office, we have Brian Ferrante, captain of the Foothill Division. Welcome, Mr. Ferrante.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Osvaldo.
So, Mr. Ferrante, tell us, what is the San Jose Police Department, what role do they play with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
Well, we're heavily involved in the task force, really from the top down. The chief, as was mentioned earlier, is one of the co-chairs of the policy team, which sets the tone for the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, sets the direction that they want it to go. And then at the tech team level, which is really where the rubber meets the road, each of the captains, of the 4 captains from the divisions, also is a co-lead of each of those areas. And we try and come up with the game plan for how we're going to address problems within our divisions, along with members of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force and community leaders and community organizers.
What changes have been made due to this collaboration, and have you been able to see results because of this?
Well, it's been in place for a long time. I believe it started in 1991, so it has evolved over time. The changes I think that we've seen are that there's a lot more community involvement than there used to be. And I think what we realized a long time ago at the police department is we're not going to arrest our way out of a gang problem. we need everybody's help, and that involves not only the community but the district attorney's office, probation, parole, city departments, as well. Not only just things like the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, but things like the Department of Transportation or code enforcement to deal with the neighborhood problems as well as the youth problems, and they all kind of come together. So what we've seen over the years is that we've been able to develop these relationships across the board, and I think that's helped us address the problem.
So what are some of the reoccurring crimes that youth are charged with?
Well, the crimes that youth are charged with generally mirror the same sorts of crimes we see adults involved with. Annually, I don't have the current numbers because we just finished 2013, but annually I want to say we have about 5,000 or 6,000 arrests and citations involving juveniles. A big portion of those will involve narcotics violations, theft, whether it be petty theft or something like auto theft or burglaries. We'll also see assaults and violent crime that's a lot of times related to gang activity. But usually the crimes that we're seeing are mirroring those that the adults would be involved in.
Since you guys have been partnered with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, have you seen a decrease in the gang activity?
Well, that's difficult to quantify over a period of time because it's one of those persistent problems, and there are a lot of different variables that affect gang crime. And it kind of ebbs and flows year to year. Some years we have less, some years we have more. This past year, 2013, I think we had a pretty good year. Statistically, I noticed a lot of the months we were down considerably from what we were the year before. So what we found is if we work closely with the community organizations, community groups, Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, and our partners in the other city government areas such as in county government like the district attorneys and probation offices, we can see a decrease. But there's so many variables, it's really hard to say what it is that had the effect to lower those crime rates.
I know you work in a lot of hotspots. Do you see, do you feel that there are certain areas that need more police?
Well, absolutely. Our staffing is very low right now, critically low. And we would love to have more police to place into some of these areas that have increased crime rates. When we talk about our hot spots, those typically, by definition, are areas where we've seen an increase in criminal activity, particularly gang activity. So what we'll do is we'll identify maybe 10 or 12 of these hot spots at any given time, and we'll direct resources at those spots. So even though our staffing is considerably lower than we would really like it to be, we can direct what resources we have at those areas that need the most attention. So when we identify those hotspots, they do get as much staffing as is available to respond, and we found that does have an effect on lowering the violence in those areas.
So is there training offered to police officers on how to build relationships with different communities and different members of those communities in order to work together to beautify their community?
Yes, we have not only our officers trained in the academy, they go through months of training before they ever hit the streets, but once they come out of the academy and they graduate and they put on the uniform and head out in a police car, they're put with a training officer, and that's an officer who has years of experience that will kind of guide that newer officer and show them how to go about the job as it's applied practically in the streets. And part of that is interaction with the community, and we want all our officers to interact well with the community, build those relationships, because by building those relationships, you involve the community in the crime reduction process, and by gaining their trust, they're more willing to interact with the police, provide information, call in suspicious activity, that sort of a thing, and be involved in programs that would reduce crime. So we're constantly trying to improve our relationships, and we try to train our officers to do that.
So how are police officers trained to respond towards an adult versus a youth?
Well, they're really trained to respond to everybody in much the same manner. We want to treat everybody with respect, because you find that respect is the thing that really causes a community to work well together. So if we can engage somebody respectfully, even when it's a difficult situation, chances are they're going to respond in like. If they don't and things get tense, and we have to take it up a notch. But the idea is that everybody's treated with respect. And whether an adult or a juvenile, we want to have a positive interaction or gain their compliance as best we can. And a big chunk of that is treating people correctly.
So we understand there is a portion of the police department which deals with police officers not necessarily abusing their power, but taking advantage of their authority. Would you mind sharing what that police or what the department is?
Well, we have a unit called the Internal Affairs Unit, and what they do is they investigate officer conduct when it's brought to their attention. So if a citizen in the community has an interaction with an officer where they feel that they weren't treated properly, or the officer didn't do the things that they were supposed to do by policy or by law, they can call the Internal Affairs Unit and make a complaint. They can do that anonymously, they can do that in person, they can do it over the phone, they can do it via a letter. And then the Internal Affairs Unit will take that up and take the complaint and investigate it.
So is there a certain system that the San Jose Police Department has implemented in order to help hotspots or be more effective in hotspots?
Yes. What we've done is, because we have such limited staffing, we've encouraged officers to come back for overtime purposes, and we will have gang suppression cars that are officers working in an overtime capacity to deal solely with those hotspots, and we will send them out to do gang enforcement in the identified hotspots. In addition to that, we have a gang suppression unit whose job full-time is to engage with gang members, investigate gang members, and intervene in gang-related events. They also deal with those hotspot areas, as does our patrol division and other special operations units. So what we try to do is identify those areas and then direct officers into them. So we do have a pretty good method of dealing with those hotspot areas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ferrante, for coming out and speaking.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Welcome back to Youth Empowering the Streets. To find more information about us, please visit our Facebook page, Instagram, or Twitter. With us, we have County of Santa Clara Deputy District Attorney Johnny Cepeda Gogo.
Hello. So, Mr. Gogo, what is the DA's office involvement on the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
Well, hello, Osvaldo and Rebecca. Thank you for having me back on your show again. And the district attorney has been involved with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force since the beginning of the task force back in 1991. We've been one of the key partners with the task force in trying to help our young people steer away from the gang problems that we've had here in our city and in our county. And specifically, we work with other City of San Jose agencies and other County of Santa Clara agencies to bring resources and programs to help our youth, again, steer away from the gang issues that we see in our cities and in our county.
So we remember that last time you were on the show, it was an episode on youth homelessness. And we understand that you had mentioned you were gonna go ahead and bring information back to the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force in order to improve the work that the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force is doing on youth homelessness. Would you have an update for us on that?
So we just met in December, I think it was, and so I don't have that information yet for you, Osvaldo and Rebecca, but when we do meet, as a matter of fact, I'm meeting with some of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force folks tomorrow, so that's certainly an issue that I will bring up to them and hopefully be able to report back to you sooner rather than later on that.
So I was on probation before. We want to know how many youth get on probation versus get off probation a year.
Well, we probably average about 800 new juvenile cases, juvenile filings a year. Now that's just the juvenile cases that we actually file on. There are a lot more cases that we don't file on because we have diversion programs available for our youth. We have a deferred entry of judgment program that we try to have our youth go through so we don't actually have to file a new charge on them and see them in court. But probably on average, there's about 800 new cases per year, so that's probably another 800 young people that are starting on probation, and then we probably have, of that 800, approximately 500 are able to successfully complete that probation, but we do see some folks, unfortunately, coming back on probation again.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the programs that the DA's office offers to the youth?
Sure. So there's a number of programs that the DA's office helps sponsor, both in court and outside of court. Some of the in-court programs I just mentioned, we have an early intervention and prevention program. We have the deferred entry of judgment program. We certainly have some specialty courts as well that help us deal with youth-impacted or gang-impacted youth, such as our domestic violence court, our drug courts, our truancy courts. We also have programs outside of court that we also partner up with other community groups like the Fresh Lifelines for Youth, FLY, and California Youth Outreach. The DA's office also has the Parent Project, which we offer to the community as well, so parents can help deal with gang issues that they see with their young children. We also have a law-related education program out of the DA's office that helps instill a sense of authority, justice, and responsibility in our young students to help them maybe steer away from gangs when they get older. So there's a number of court programs, a number of county and city programs that the DA's office is involved with to help our gang-impacted youth.
Thank you.
So has there been a decrease in incarceration rate for youth since the DA's office came into being a part of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force?
So again, the DA's office has been part of the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force since 1991. It's probably both before you were born.
Oh, yes.
But, so I think that we've had a positive impact throughout the years. If you want to look at some numbers, I just researched that particular question in our office, and the supervisor of our juvenile unit, his name is Christopher Areola, he has informed me that over the last 3 years, we probably, our numbers have dropped from about 3,000 incarcerated youth over this time frame to about 2,200. So we're seeing a decrease in the incarcerated youth, and that's due to obviously a number of factors, including our participation in the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, but also with the court's help and assistance, with probation's assistance, with obviously the San Jose Police Department and the Sheriff's Office. But we've also cut down on the number of youth that are in juvenile hall over the past couple of years. So back in 2011, we probably had on average 300 juveniles incarcerated in our juvenile hall. Again, with a concentrated effort by both the courts, probation, the DA's office, we've seen that number decrease to about 150. So it's about a 50% decrease in terms of actual youth in our juvenile hall over that 3-year period.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I just wanted to continue to thank Osvaldo and Rebecca and everybody here at Create TV for continuing to do your work in reaching out to the youth in our community. And anytime that I can help I can offer my assistance, please let me know.
So I understand you mentioned that the amount of youth in juvenile hall has decreased. So because of that decrease, have you noticed, or has the DA's office noticed an increase in youth activity or youth violence within the streets?
Well, again, as one of your earlier guests stated, I think it was Captain Ferrante, that kind of goes up and it goes down. It goes in cycles, unfortunately. It ebbs and flows. And so while we may be seeing in some years or some time periods a decrease in youth violence, in even youth gang violence, we can't rest on our laurels, because who knows what can set a time frame when that's going to spike or increase again. And so I can't give you any numbers specifically on that, Osvaldo, but it does go in cycles. So it goes up and down, and that's why the work that you guys are doing to help get the word out, the work that the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force is so very important, because you never know when the spikes are going to occur.
We understand that you are very much involved with the community. Can you describe what that involvement is, and how has that changed your perception on your job?
So as you know, Rebecca, I also do truancy hearings out in the East Side Union High School District, and as you saw from your own experience and being in part of that, being a person who sat in the audience, and then today talking to the audience, there's a large group of students, unfortunately, that are being truant, and we need to reach out to those individuals and help them understand the value of education. So that's one of the things that I do. I also help our parents in the community by facilitating or teaching our parent project, which helps the parents learn some skills and techniques to deal with the children that they have and the issues that teenagers go through, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's truancy, whether it's runaways or suicides, whether it's gangs. There's a lot of issues that teenagers deal with these days, and a lot of parents, although they love their children, sometimes don't know the skills, the right skill set, or the right tools to help deal with some of the issues that youth experience today. So that's another program that I am involved with. And again, the law-related education program, where we reach out to elementary school kids to try to get them at an early age to understand the concepts of justice and authority and responsibility. So there's a number of programs that I'm involved with, and that's, again, obviously with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force, as how I met both you, Osvaldo, and you, Rebecca.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Gogo, and thank you for speaking. Stay tuned for more Youth Empowering the Streets.